Monsieur Padzur, la parole est à vous.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for being here today. Really appreciate what everybody's brought to the table. CanPay, I'm just wondering if you can just elaborate a little bit more here, because we're really seeing the lack of competition, true competition, when it comes to the online payment system per se, right? It seems like Interac is the one that it's their highway and they're the only one that drives on it, for lack of a better analogy here. So how do we get more competition in? I mean, we see the big banks are the ones who are basically on the board of Interac, so of course they don't want your company to come in and be another option. So can you just talk a little bit more about what that would look like to try to get either another highway built for companies like you, or maybe just even another vehicle on the highway? Can you just elaborate on that a little bit more?
Thank you very much, Mr. Patzer. Definitely, I mean, one of the easiest ways is to at least introduce more oversight by committees like yours to see what's actually happening on the boards of such companies, in the process of observing what's happening, and that would open up the room for further analysis and recommendations. And one thing with Interac is they built this technology in a time where this solution was needed, and it solved a big problem for the Canadians. Naturally, in technology, things stall with time, and it grabs a lot. It becomes burdensome to manage these systems because they rely on old technology. So opening up the door for providers like us under the right regulations, and for us, we need to get properly regulated. We can bring modern technology that makes things much easier, which is the separate highway that you can speak of. And definitely on third, if we can look at what recently happened in the US and the implementation of open banking, because the highways, the technology, it's ubiquitous. There's availability for a lot of options out there. We, as Canadians, under the right regulations, can select what's best for us. Introducing legislation that opens up access to the consumer information and giving the consumer the power to share this account information with providers that are properly regulated like us, definitely opens up the door for more competition. And as we know, when competition enters, the consumer typically is the biggest beneficiary from these situations.
So as a consumer, what kind of potential savings would I be looking at here by opening up the competition in this regard? Like, do you have any figures for this committee on how much money an individual could save if there was more competition? And have you done that analysis?
We've done it more on an aggregate level, but we can transfer it down to the specific consumer. I mean, I can cite my own personal example, but on aggregates, just on the e-transfer fees, if it becomes free for all the Canadians, we project, and reduced fees for the businesses that use Interac, we project at least $1 billion in the first year to come back into the Canadian pockets. And if you add to it the fees that cost, for example, wire transfers, if you have larger cap, take, for example, in the UK, FPS enables businesses to move around up to £1 million within their systems versus the limits that we have in Interac. These wire fees at 10 to 20 per wire add up significantly. So you can at least double that number to go up to 2.5 and even more. There's a third venue that comes in, which is international money transfers. It's a bit of a trickier one, so it would take longer to explain. But if you look at the situation here in Canada, we have international companies, like Wise, that operate in Canada and offer very competitive international money transfers. That also could double the total savings, for the consumers that way. So in short, in aggregate, it's about $1 billion annual for just transfer fees. As this enables more growth, within 5 years, you can see this go up to $5 to $10 billion easily, given the total population of Canada.
Okay, that's a pretty big number, so I really appreciate that. Thank you. I guess we got about 30 seconds left here. Shortly, are there any specific regulations right now that are problematic for you that need to be changed, or what are you seeing there?
The core of open banking is what will simplify us to become more entrants and to be able to enter and start competing. And definitely once getting access to this account information as such, the user account information and giving the consumers this right will give us also the ability to start proposing more and better adjustments in order to offer the competitive solutions to the consumers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Beaucoup, Monsieur Massé, Monsieur Généreux.
Thank you, Mr. Généreux. Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the witnesses. A very interesting discussion today. Mr. Kolodenko, I want to consider on the same line of questioning. Now, I understand that Questrade does transactions. I like concrete examples. So I have $200,000 in RSPs. So it's just imagine that. So I take that money, I send it to you, and it costs me, let's say, it currently costs me several $100s in management fees currently. So I take that money, I bring it to you. How much will it cost me to manage that same $200,000? I imagine it's per transaction. I understand that in your company, we're the ones who have to do the transactions. We have to decide whether we want to buy one share or a fund. So based on what you said in your opening statement, the money that we're not paying in fees, we put it in our savings, which makes our savings increase. So explain to me how I can save money if I put my money in your company.
For the question, I very much appreciate it. So we pride ourselves on going direct to the consumer and providing the best value for the service that we have. Compared to other incumbent products, our fees are much lower. And so the fees that you actually save, the increment, the difference between you will be paying at a regular mutual fund, and the mutual fund fees are not transparent, just like I was mentioning earlier, the interchange fees. Mutual fund fees are on the back end, paid, collected by the financial institution that issues that mutual fund. Those mutual fund fees are some of the highest in the world, up to 2.5%. Our fees are, so at our company, you're right, you can either do it yourself, you can invest in it in a financial product yourself, in a stock or an ETF, which is kind of like a mutual fund. Or we have another product where we can manage your money for you and charge you a much smaller fee to do that as you would compared to a full-service provider. And so the difference in the savings would be something you can reinvest back into your RSP, and that would grow, as we say, up to, could be 50% more.
Okay. Pour rejoindre un peu ce que M. Jenkins a...
So to come back to what Mr. Jenkins mentioned a moment ago, the risk for the consumer, depending on the level of risk that people are ready to take. I mean, as soon as you start managing your own mutual funds, I saw on your website that you have some sort of robot or AI robot advisor. I don't know how to call it really, that allows people to be able to get advice on how to invest their funds. There's always a risk involved in the sense that people, as soon as they see a potential for their savings to grow and bring more profit, there's a potential of making wrong choices. Now, is your robot using artificial intelligence to assist people? How does it work?
Artificial intelligence as of yet, not to say that as the technology improves, we won't into the future. As of now, the portfolios are professionally managed, and there are different risk guidelines depending on what your risk tolerance is. We go through a questionnaire where we ask consumers, we ask Canadians, what is their level of risk tolerance? So we'll ask them what their time horizon is, how many dependents they have, what their income is, how long do they want to keep the investment for. And depending on some of the answers, we have an algorithm in the back that says you're either very low risk or medium or higher risk tolerance, and we'll craft a portfolio that is appropriate for that circumstance.
Monsieur Aboudaya, comment?
Mr. Aboudaya, how is it possible that you cannot do business in Canada? What are the main obstacles?
As I mentioned earlier to the team, the key obstacle is being able to meaningfully move money from account to account. a lot of the fintech providers in Canada, if you subscribe to a few, you see a number on the screen, and then this number on the screen is the money that you have. If you want it to actually land in your account, there is a certain amount of delay depending on the size that you want to move and such. So for a meaningful settlement system or a meaningful payment network, the ability for the consumer to have faith in the service that you deliver frequently relies on your ability to land this money in their bank accounts, and this is only possible through Interac.
Vous avez dit tantôt qu'il y a plusieurs pays où sont...
You mentioned earlier that there are many countries where it is now possible because you're doing business elsewhere across the world. So what can we do in Canada to be able to allow more competition between several players that could eventually enter the market? We know that crypto coin currency and other opportunities are needed in order to be more competitive. How can we allow the consumer to be able to make savings as a result of this competition and also save on some of these banking costs?
100%. I mean, the main theme was competition and enabling competition. What's inhibiting a competitive solution like ours from entering is the ability to access the consumer information. So definitely open banking is one of the elements. The adoption, and as I want to note definitely a note from Mr. Jenkins earlier around putting the right safeguards and encouraging the consumers with the right way to increase their adoption of cryptocurrencies. As a country, we start understanding better how we want this to be part of our financial ecosystem. That definitely helps. And the stablecoin point that we discussed with Mr. Lightbound, regulating the adoption of stablecoins and bringing it forward into the country. There was a paper that was presented to Indo that I read earlier. I think it was on November 11th. Around making federal regulations as it comes to the adoption of cryptocurrencies are important. And finally, what you are doing today is helping regardless, because you are inspecting where there are inefficiencies and where there potentially competition is not able to enter. And this definitely is one of the steps that will move things forward.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Généreux. Finalement...
Thank you, Mr. Généreux.
By the way,
now,
Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Badaway, Mr. Perkins.
Mentioned that we need to get real-time rail going. We've had a lot of chat about that. I think Interac has gone through a couple of presidents on this. From your insight, why is it that the banks are so reluctant to do this?
Great question. I think that they've got very old technology that they've put together by Band-Aids and duct tape over years and years and years. Mainframe technology going back to the 1960s. They've invested billions of dollars. They keep investing, I don't know how much money, probably billions of dollars annually into maintaining it. And to rewrite it and to redo it is very costly. And so therefore they'd rather not, but that obviously hinders innovation.
Have quite a big profit margin, so I don't imagine that would be too much trouble for them to find the money. I will turn over to MP Rempel-Garner in just a moment, but one more question for Canpay. The government uses security. I shouldn't say the government. Banks use security, access to the system, safety. Mr. Van Bynen raised the good question on the issue of security and new entrants. We seem to see a lot of that excuse used in Canada to prevent alternative service providers. Are alternative service providers a security risk in other countries?
I'll point to the easiest way to put forward. I mean, always security is always a risk, but if you analyze where security breaches have happened, they are rarely actual system breaches. They are more frequently behavioral, and this is where Mr. Jenkins pointed out the point very specifically. Very simply, we open up like ChatGPT or Google and ask about has there been any security breaches for FPS, UPI, and you're talking about systems that have tens of millions of users, and the answer is no. In the security, especially in the financial space, is well documented. As long as everybody abides by the normal regulations that come forward, that would not be the number one concern for innovation. I'm not saying let the innovators run free. Absolutely not. This is why we have bodies in the government that regulate how can the systems operate. But yeah, it's not to the extent that the banks put forward.